Welcome, one and all, to the Ferret and Raccoon podcast, episode 180. I am the Angry Raccoon.
I'm the Indigenous Owl.
Bringing you the last podcast of November 2021. And this is quite a significant episode, not only because it's one of the last podcasts we're going to be doing in 2021, but also it marks the fact that, Owl, you are the current leading champion of most appearances on the podcast this year.
Woohoo! Yes!
That is something worth celebrating, and that actually fits into the theme of this podcast, funny enough. We're doing a lot of celebrating and remembering. Already off to a great start, and I can't even say one of the key words for this episode. We're going to be doing a lot of remembering on this episode, as it is November, and that's what we do. We like to look back and remember, but it's good to have you back on the podcast, Al, for one of the last ones. How have you been?
I've been alright. The only thing I've really been up to for the last, fortnight or so is pretty much the only game I've been playing is Bloody Roar 2. Really, I decided to just revisit one of my all-time favorite fighting games.
Back on the classic.
I've been so demotivated because of I haven't really been playing fighting games as of late. I feel like I'm going through that phase where I don't know if I'm growing out of the gaming or if I'm not. I'm not too sure. I'm just indecisive. I really want to get back into the gaming scene, but I feel like I don't know. I don't find it as fun as I used to. I used to just play it religiously, play games religiously every day, just spend hours. But now I just can't do it anymore for some odd reason.
Do you think it might be?
I'm just trying to. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, do you think it might be a matter of just life and job and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it is just life be lifing, I guess. But I think I just feel like I just can't sit down and enjoy gaming anymore. I just feel like so many other things just popping up in my life and that. But I'm just trying. I just started. I thought to myself one day I put Bloody Roar 2 back on. I thought, let me just try and start again and get back into gaming. And I thought, you know what, I do find it fun, but I'm probably just going to spend less hours on gaming. And I was trying to find maybe a new genre of gaming that I should try. Try playing, Final Fantasy or try more adventure games and stuff like that. But for now, I'm just going to take it slow and try and ease back into gaming again. But that's it for the most part for me.
Fair enough. I mean, as I mentioned on the previous podcast, I recently moved house and I'm still in the process of moving things around, getting my room done. I managed to get one shelf pretty much taken care of-ish to some extent. So it's coming together nicely, being my room that is. But the one thing I decided to watch, which was a series that was on my, watch list for a while, and I finally decided to give it a watch because I think it's quite relevant in terms of what's been happening in my life. And that is the British sitcom comedy series Staff Lets Flats.
Oh, okay.
Now, I went into this show kind of thinking that this was just going to be a series about, oh, look at this dumb, funny man trying to sell people flats. And I thought that was just going to be the whole show. Very somewhat Sacha Baron Cohen, Borat, Ali G-esque style. But what you really get at the end of the day is it's a series where the basic premise is it follows a family-run Greek rental agency simply named Michael and Igor for some reason. It's never explained what's up with that name. And essentially you follow the adventures of Staff, who seems to be maybe the most incompetent letting agent in London. And it's a really interesting series because every character has this almost believability and relatability to them where you've most likely seen or met this kind of person before.
Right.
Which works to the series' benefit really, really well, because Staff is an interesting character because although he's very incompetent, not very good at his job, he also seems to struggle actually even speaking or pronouncing his words to an extent, which can be funny but makes sense when, I think according to the series, he only moved to England when he was 14. Okay. And given the fact that he's almost 14, I guess the implication is that he may not have got the support he needed in school to help him really thrive. Or he may be someone who has learning difficulties to an extent, although that's not been confirmed. The actor himself is not how Staff acts in the show. So it is really interesting that you have a British series focusing on a Greek person or a Greek family. And there are a couple other characters that do fall in kind of more ethnic how shall I put it? Ethnic backgrounds, for example, which is pretty creative because I can't think of too many other shows that follow, the lifestyles of, Greek people. Or people from Cyprus, which I think is a fantastic concept, and it's a British comedy as well. But the series is really funny. Like, it's won a ton of awards, and I know Channel 4, which is what it's on, they brag about it's the award-winning Stafflet's Flats. It's the award-winning Stafflet's Flats. And I can kind of see why. It's a really well-done series. It's very funny in a lot of very odd ways, and it dabbles in a lot of, like, surrealist, absurdist comedy at points, which really catches you off guard. But I would highly recommend it. It does have a kind of a weird vibe. You honestly kind of got to just accept that everyone's maybe a little bit weird or a little bit mad in this show. Like, if you can embrace that, you will enjoy the show. If not, you probably will find the characters maybe a bit awful and terrible. But it is a really enjoyable show. It's got 3 seasons, a total of 18 episodes. It's worth giving a watch if you're looking for something that's a little bit familiar but very different at the same time. But yeah, that's the main thing I've been watching. I guess we'll move on to our stories, which we don't have a lot of because, let's be honest, there wasn't a lot to talk about. Media is in a pretty bad place right now, where there's not a lot of originality even really coming out, especially right now, and we're not even above with that stuff. But I guess we'll move on to our first story, which I'm going to talk about real quick, and that is going to be the whole NFT situation that's been going on over the last month or so. Now, there's been a lot of discussion over these NFTs, and I don't think anyone actually really knows what non-fungible or fungible tokens are. And I'll give a quick synopsis of what they are. They're essentially a digital receipt that says that you own an image on the internet. So think of literally like a 500 by 500 pixel square with a bit of artwork or a design on it. Once you buy that, that is yours. No one else owns it. The ownership of said, NFT essentially is logged on a backchain, which basically means that it is digitally, it is regarded as yours and yours only. Basically, what these things are, they are cryptocurrency and a scammer's paradise. Because the issue now is that anyone can download or screen cap anyone's artwork or even existing NFTs and sell them for an extortionate price. And it has happened because tons of artists, tons of people have seen their NFTs sold on, seen their artwork sold on, and where it gets really problematic and really upsetting to some extent is the fact that companies like Twitter, Discord, Adobe, Ubisoft, Square Enix, and many others have reportedly stated that they are looking into incorporating NFTs into their company or their games or how their website or whatever runs. So they're essentially jumping on this bandwagon, which is very problematic given what I've just described and given how it's very negatively affected a lot of people. And I find it incredibly sad, especially when you take into account that realistically, you could go and find an artist via Twitter, DeviantArt, whatever that you really like, commission that artist for a fraction of the price of what an NFT is sold for, because some of them go for stupid prices. I'm talking in thousands. And it's even more upsetting when people buy these NFTs for hundreds of pounds knowing that they're someone's stolen artwork or they're already existing NFT graphics or images. So yeah, you could essentially commission an artist whatever the hell you want, your wildest dreams, whatever, and that piece would essentially be yours and you'd be credited as the creator. And you could do that for probably like about £30, £50, even if you wanted to splurge out £300. I don't know why people aren't doing that and supporting artists, but this whole NFT situation is a bit distressing. And I know, Al, this is probably not the first time you've maybe heard of what the hell these things are, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's the first time I'm hearing this.
Yeah, it's very confusing because I even had to ask Ace what exactly was going on, and he was a little bit more informed on what was going on. So a lot of what I'm stating is information via what they seemingly are and some of his opinion, just for reference in case people are wondering. But yeah, let's move on to our next story, which I believe you have, Al.
Yeah, so I'm going to be introducing the GTA Trilogy. So that's been doing pretty bad. So what the GTA Trilogy has is basically GTA 3, GTA Vice City, and GTA San Andreas. The reviews are all basically really bad. I didn't even realize that they had a HD remake. I literally completely forgot about it, but it was funny because I saw people playing San Andreas on the PS4. I was like, wait, how? Wait, what? And then I realized, oh yeah, didn't they get a HD remake? But the fact that it's done badly is laughable in my opinion. How are you going to make a remake and it still be as flawed as the originals? It's like, you should have just left it instead of bringing it back. Or trying to fix the flaws and then bringing it back. It's lazy in my opinion, honestly. I just think that, like, people want a new GTA game. What? People don't want to replay the old games. I don't get it.
Quick correction, not a remake, but a remaster of the original games.
Oh, remaster, sorry, yeah.
Which is fine. I know, it's just we get so many remakes and remasters, sometimes it's hard to tell what they are, so I get that. But, and at the same time, I disagree. I think a lot of people have nostalgia for the games, and they do want to replay them. And as you said, it is very laughable and is quite sad that people who do want to go back to those games or experience them for the first time have like this awful version that they're most likely going to play. Because, I mean, I'm not going to be harsh on younger audiences, but I don't expect anyone under the age of 12 to go out and buy a PS2 just to buy a copy of San Andreas. That's true. I don't expect that. I mean, and here's the thing, if they can buy these 3 games for the price of $35, although the physical version is about $50, which is not good, especially when they're broken. It's a bad situation because, as you say, the reviews have been awful, and it's mainly come from user reviews who are just upset at just the laziness that has gone into this, because apparently they used an AI for the remaster.
Oh, Lord.
And so the AI, obviously because it's an artificial intelligence, it kind of just does what it thinks is best.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of the textures and a lot of the graphics look very smooth. And it's just strange how, like, Rockstar, who have this really big legacy, like, the first thing you think of when you think of Rockstar is polish. Rockstar have not really released a game that anyone is going, oh yeah, remember when they released that broken game?
It's true, actually. No, a lot of people love Rockstar games.
And that's one of the reasons why. They are known for their polish. Naughty Dog as well, to an extent, and even Rocksteady as well. Known for making polished, finished games. You're not going to get no Cyberpunk 2077 from them. So it is...
Not tired.
Well, not until now, but I don't know. It falls into a grey area because, did they even really remaster these games, but I'm not excusing the fact that these things exist. It is shocking, but at the same time, some of these glitches have been fucking hilarious to look at. Like, the one I only just found out recently was there's one where, I think it's in San Andreas, or it might be Vice City, where if you wiggle your car left and right, your car grows in size.
What?
Look it up, it's an actual glitch.
I need to look at this up.
And although my personal favorite is the one where I believe if you go into first person mode or you do something with the camera, essentially the main character's face gets stuck on the screen.
Oh yeah, that's the one you sent me.
I sent you that one. Look that one up as well. It is the funniest thing ever because I've never seen a glitch like that before. And that's the weird thing. You remastered a game or games that are 20 or coming up to 20 years old, and you somehow implemented new glitches into them. Honestly, it's shocking. Oh dear, but let's move on to, I guess, the future to some extent, and we're going to be talking about, which, it kind of makes me sick to say this to some extent, and that's going to be Disney Plus Day. So Disney decided, hey, we're going to, talk about a bunch of, things we have for Disney Plus, and most of them were unoriginal or remakes or not needed. So let's talk about the things that were worth talking about. My first is going to be Zootopia Plus, which is a terrible name. I don't know why they need to change that name, because that's awful. What the hell does that even mean?
Zootopia Plus.
Yeah, what does that mean? And here's the thing, it's like the only continuation of a property that has the plus, naming.
Right.
I don't really get it. But it could be great, this series. We haven't seen anything of it yet, because I like the original Zootopia. I thought it was a great film, although it had its issues, much like almost every recent Disney film and Pixar film now, unfortunately. If it tells and continues stories of characters we saw in the film and incorporates new characters and really, expands on such a creative world, like an anthropomorphic world with, characters where everyone's, I guess, environment and, personality and species is accompanied for, is great. I'd love to see that expanded on more, because I've read the art book, and they were going to do a lot more with the world and, different species. For example, in the film, you don't really see Arctic or bird-like creatures, and that's because they had to cut it for time. So I'd love to see what the Arctic world looks like, or what the tropical paradise bird world looks like. So I hope they don't play it safe with this one. Al, did you have something you wanted to talk about from Disney Plus? Not Disney, yeah, Disney Plus, yeah.
Well, I was scrolling through the article. I did see that, like, Marvel, in the Marvel section anyway, they're going to bring back the old X-Men series to watch on there from the 90s, which actually I was surprised to see that. I'm, like, in a way, I'm happy that they are doing that, because a lot of people did love that series. Like, as soon as you mention the old X-Men series from the 90s, the first thing people do is sing the opening theme for it.
Which we're not going to do because copyright.
I didn't want to do that anyway. It was that fact that, because I think X-Men is they're gonna do a new series for it in 2023. So while people wait for that to come out, they brought that series back for people to rewatch and feel nostalgic again. So I'm excited for the fans in that sense. But that's it really. That's all I had to mention.
It should be interesting to see. I know this sounds weird, but it should be interesting to see how the animation is going to look. Because I'd imagine they're going to try and emulate the original 90s series as best as possible.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm wondering if they're going to go through the effort to make it look like it was how it would have looked when it was syndicated back in the 90s, or if it's going to have the style, but it's going to be clean 1080p 60 frames. That's the big question I have, but we have to wait for the trailer, I guess. The other thing I want to talk about, because we only got 3, is Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, the 2022 movie. Now, I'm going to get real with you guys in this podcast. This is going to be one of the most divisive things I think I will ever talk about on the podcast. Why? You'll have to find out later. But this is weird because I know it's probably weird because people are like, why do you care about Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers? Like, what's going on? A little bit of fact, it's one of my favorite cartoons of all time, period. It's one of my favorites. So obviously the stakes are high, especially when I see the fact that they are insisting it's not a reboot and rather a comeback, which I find really confusing because the show hasn't been on TV for 30 years. They haven't brought back the original cast because John Mulaney and Andy Sandberg, are voicing the characters Chip and Dale. I did double check, the whole original voice cast is still alive. I'm not saying you have to bring them back for it to be true, but it's a bit odd that you're saying it's a comeback, not a reboot, yet you've clearly rebooted the series to some extent. Also, the original series didn't have an overarching story, so I don't know what that's about. I don't know what you're continuing there. And lastly, the Ducktales reboot from 2017, it did its own thing. It was a reboot, told its old story, had a new cast, and it turned out pretty well. So I don't know why they're insisting that they're not going to emulate the success of that DuckTales series by saying we're not going to reboot it, we're going to continue it. We're going to continue a story that has no story to be continued. This is a reboot. It is a reboot. They are lying. It is 100% a reboot. I don't know what is going on with Disney. I don't know what's going on with their marketing right now. It's a reboot. So stop trying to lie to people, Disney. And when that trailer comes out, you best... I'm not even going to get into it because I'm going to get too angry. Al, I believe you have the next trailer.
The next trailer is The Girl from the Other Side. This was it's a manga series originally, which is written and illustrated by the artist Nagabe, who he also worked on Wise Beast of the Wizarding. This manga was also featured in Mag's Garden Shonen Manga magazine back in 2015. So it's getting an anime release now. I believe it's going to be a series. Watching the trailer, the animation was incredible. I'm not surprised why it's getting I'm not surprised it's getting an animation. I feel like it's one of those books that needs an animation because the art style it's so incredible. And like the thing that actually really appealed to me in the trailer was the actual character. Well, actually, he didn't even have a name. It's just known as the teacher.
Yeah.
And he really reminded me from I don't know if it's pronounced like I usually pronounce the name as Elias from Ancient Magus Brides.
I say Elias, yeah.
Yeah, or call him Elias then. From Ancient Magus Bride, I feel like there could be maybe some inspiration for the character design, like not in terms of like the character's like face, but more to do with the clothing of the character. I kind of got that kind of Ancient Magus Bride vibes from this animation. I feel like I'm not going to go into the plot of what it's about. I feel like it's one of those things where you have to go into and just watch and appreciate it and not read up anything about it.
Yeah, I would say that's hence why I've not written anything about, because I think I know a little bit more about it than you do. But yeah, it is an interesting series. It's a bit confusing though what is going on with this series, because it's been in the works for a while, and a while ago there was a short animation which I believe you could only get if you bought one of the volumes in Japan. You may be able to watch it online, and then in 2019 it got confirmed for a film. It is going to be a film, but I believe there was originally plans to have it be a series. So it's a little bit confusing because I've known about this for a long time. So when I saw the trailer, I was surprised and happy to see that it still exists. But WIT Studio, or WIT, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, they, like you said, have done a fantastic and faithful job like recreating the manga's like picture book 19th century illustration style perfectly. In my opinion, it looks beautiful, and they've really taken advantage of like the visual medium and like really emphasized the contrast between Shiva, who is the little girl, and, as you mentioned, Teacher. You know, because Shiva has almost like a glow to her, while Teacher has like a somewhat of a dark mist, understandably, around him, which is really nice because he's a beast who curses people. But it is funny that you do mention the Ancient Magus Bride, and there is similarities between them because I believe both those characters, both those series do take inspiration from British-Irish folk tales. Elias is based on an actual thing. I don't know its name, but it's... I can't remember what its origin is. You can look it up, but it's...
Is it a Wendigo?
Not a Wendigo. It's like a cow's skull with horns, and it wears a cape, and it's something that people usually hold on a stick.
Okay.
That's what I believe he is, and maybe this character is based on. But if you're a big fan of, Ancient Magus Bride, or even the film Wolfwalkers as well, which I think is a fantastic animated film, or you really want to know more about like British like folk tales or Irish like stories and myths and monsters, because we've got quite a good collection of them, you'll most likely like this series. I can confirm that because I know a little bit more about this series. But yeah, moving on, we're going to shift gears to gaming now. And we're going to talk about the Game Awards 2021. The nominees were revealed, and it is an interesting year this time around, because I even sent you the actual games of the year, 6 of them, which was quite interesting, because the 5 nominated are, if I remember correctly, Deathloop, It Takes Two, why am I forgetting the other ones? Deathloop, It Takes Two, Resident Evil 8, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and Psychonauts 2.
Yeah.
These are all the games up for nomination, which is actually pretty impressive, given that 5 of those 6 are actually good, in my opinion. The one I don't think is pretty good is Deathloop. I think it's an average game. It is Arcanine Studios making Dishonored again. It's boring, and it's nothing special. Sorry, guys, it's nothing special.
No, it is, though. It is special.
No, and then the podcast goes on for an hour. But no, there's nothing special about that game. That game has its moments, but overall, like, really, you're gonna say Deathloop is better than Psychonauts 2? You can come fight me if you're that bold, because you will lose. Oh shit! But anyway, let's talk about some of the nominations. Were there any that you find particularly interesting in terms of like categories, Al?
The the best roleplay games.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at that category, and I was happy to see that Monster Hunter Rise was on there.
Yeah.
I do hope that gets the top vote. And the fighting games are a bit.
Yeah.
I didn't really care too much. I mean, Guilty Gear Strive, it's okay, but I'm not didn't really bother
It's
me
been a
this
slow
year.
year for fighting games, I think.
Yeah, it's been really lackluster, honestly. But yeah, I do hope that Monster Hunter Rise does get best vote for best roleplay games.
I hope it does as well. I feel like Tales of Arise will probably sneak it. Only because that game was really popular and really hyped.
Oh, okay.
But then again, we've got Shinigami Tensei 5 as well, and that's a big player. Because the last, I put into perspective, the last Shinigami Tensei game that was numbered came out on the 3DS.
Aha, okay.
So yeah, people have been looking forward to this one. Yeah, but it's interesting. Some of the nominations and some of the categories are interesting. I mean, in terms of Game of the Year, I'll speed through them real quick. Game of the Year, I would love to see Resident Evil 8 or Psychonauts 2 or Ratchet & Clank win it. I think they deserve it. Even if It Takes Two takes it, I'll be happy with that. People, funny enough, were wondering why Cyberpunk 2077 wasn't nominated for Game of the Year.
Oh my god.
And let's be honest, even if you remove the glitches and the broken design, that game is mediocre at best. I'm sorry, I have to say, it's not that great of a game. Does it have good moments? Yes. Does it look nice? At times. It's just not that great, I'm afraid. And also, I'm pretty sure one of the main rules is that your game has to be finished to be nominated. So, there's that. Best Narrative, Psychonauts 2, It Takes Two, Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm happy to see them get a nomination. Hopefully either of those three. Best Art Direction, it has to go to Psychonauts 2. Nothing is topping Psychonauts 2, I'm afraid. Just go look up like 10 minutes of that game and you'll know why. Doesn't matter what 10 minutes, you'll know. Best Performance is interesting as well because you have Jason Kelly as Colt from Deathloop. You have, I cannot pronounce her name, but it's the lady who voices Julian from Deathloop as well. I think both of them did an absolutely fantastic performance in that game. My money is on Maggie Robinson, who voiced big old Lady Demetress. I think from Resident Evil 8, I think she's going to win it because that character is already iconic for so many reasons. Best Indie, I think all of the games from Best Indie deserve to win. And the one thing that really confused me was Content Creator of the Year.
Okay.
I don't know who any of these people are, which is fine. But why the Content Creator Dream is nominated is very strange. Because Dream is a Minecraft speedrunner who either did or didn't cheat during his speedruns, and he made an awful animated music video, and there's a lot of weird shenanigans that aren't great going on with him, so I'm actually really surprised he's still there. Very odd. But let's move on to one of our last stories, and we're going to stay with gaming, and we're going to move more into nostalgia, because literally, before we were about to record the podcast and get it all done, they just revealed there's going to be a new Earthworm Jim animated series, just out of the blue. Just Earthworm Jim is back, which is awesome because even looking at this little concept video, the art style, the animation looks wonderful. It's very clean. The backgrounds are very grand. It has a very space opera element to it, and I'm liking it so far. What I'm not liking from this concept is I do not like Jim's very braggadocious and self-centered personality. Now, he was very egotistical in the games and the cartoon, but here he kind of comes across as an arsehole, in my opinion. I prefer him to be a little bit more zany and crazy. And yeah, I don't really like the direction this is going in. I have a feeling this is going to be a slightly more generic and safe series compared to the original 90s character or series, which does have me worried because we've been seeing a lot of cartoons come out which are very samey, and we don't need that with Earthworm Jim. Earthworm Jim can be the savior and be like that one. I know this is going to sound like a weird comparison. It could be like the next Rick and Morty in just how out there it is. I know lots of people hate Rick and Morty, but there aren't a lot of shows like Rick and Morty. I'll just put it that way. You got to give the show that at least. We need more originality. But I am happy to see him return. We haven't seen him since 1999.
Oh, jeez. Wow, that's a long
Which
time.
was Earthworm Jim 3D on the N64. And if you know anything about that game, you know that was not a good game. That game technically killed him. But yeah, Al, do you have any comments to say about Earthworm Jim? I don't even know if you're a fan of this character.
To be honest, I only heard about this character, I think like once or twice. Like I heard my friends say it, like, oh yeah, Earthworm Jim. I'm like, who the hell is that? I had no idea about the game, honestly. Yeah, nah, I don't really have much to say on it, honestly.
Fair enough. He's a character that's fallen into obscurity, much like Gex or a few others, unfortunately. But,
oh, okay. Yeah, right, fair enough.
although there is rumors Gex may be coming back to some extent, but we'll see. But yeah, Al, I believe you're introducing our discussion.
So our discussion is, we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of both Crash Bandicoot and Tomb Raider, as they both came out in 1996. So, first we're going to start off with Crash Bandicoot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll start off with my favourite memory. I didn't actually, well, with Crash Bandicoot, my journey with Crash Bandicoot is very weird because I played number 2 first, then number 3, then number 1. Yeah, it's very weird.
That is weird.
Going into my favourite memory, I played the first game on because the PSN store on PS3, you can get the first game on there, so I played it. I got a digital copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
And my favourite memory is actually getting past the level Sunset Vista for the very first time. And that was last Christmas, Christmas last year, because that level gave me so many problems. I got up to that level, I think, I'm trying to think what year it was. I think it might have been 2016. I got up to that level, and I couldn't get past the level, and I thought, I'm not playing this game I didn't play it for a good 3 years. And I thought, I'm going to revisit this game, and I'm going to beat this level. And I just dedicated all the time, but the frustration was so real because I didn't get that many lives. I only had like 4 lives, and I kept losing them every time. And I thought, I'm going to get past this level. I'm going to do it today. And I managed to do it. I was extremely happy when I did. But there was times where like I got almost to the end of the level, and I fell off, and I lost all my lives, and I had to start all over again from the beginning. I thought it was tricky. It was very tricky. But yeah, a moment I have to celebrate.
Thank goodness for the Insane Trilogy and like check marks or checkpoints, I guess you could say.
Yes, yeah, 100%. Because that PS1 game, the PS1 version made the save points they are ridiculously rare. Honestly,
yeah.
You literally have to either get the silver gem, or you have to pass the bonus stages with Torna Bandicoot, and then that's another save point. But you can't just save at any point in the game.
Yeah,
so,
it's rough. Wouldn't say it's a flawed game, but I'd just say it's just product of its time, really. Yeah, I have like my memories of like Crash are quite interesting because like I have memories of playing the original Crash 3 at my friend's house back when it first came out, and the only thing I can remember about it was actually beating Entropy.
Oh right, okay.
I somehow managed to beat Entropy. The same thing with Crash Team Racing. I played that game more than any of the original 3, the original ones. And I remember playing it. I think I was doing the story mode, and I have vivid memories of beating Ripperoo, like in one attempt. And keep in mind, I think I was maybe 8 at the time. And I remember doing that, and I think my friend, who was at my friend's house at the time, he's much older than me, him being like weirdly impressed that I was able to just beat beat the first boss, without really having like prior knowledge of how to really play the game. But there's stuff like that. But my experience with the Crash Bandicoot series is actually quite recent because I did buy the Insane Trilogy a little while ago, and I actually played all 3 games while also going back and forth between CTR Nitro Fueled during lockdown last year. So they are odd memories to me playing those games because it is a bit odd to experience a game that I'm familiar with and know about but have never played before in a situation where I had the whole house to myself and no one was really around and the world was in this weird situation. It was weird because it was weirdly intimate because it was just me and Crash. I know that sounds really weird, but yeah, that's just what it was. And my experience with the game was really nice, actually, because I really enjoyed all 3 of those games. I do like the pacing of the first game and the simplicity of it. The high road and the ones on the bridge, they can fuck off, those levels. And I know Crash 2 is fantastic. That's when it really gets good and you really start feeling the flow and the speed and the pace of everything. 100%. And I really do. I know a lot of people aren't so keen on the third one. I really like the third one, personally. I think its presentation and everything about the third one in the Insane Trilogy, I think, makes it an even better game to me, to some extent. The time trials were a bit problematic for me as well. I beat all the time trials. and I struggled on a few. The Stormy Ascent is probably one of the worst time trials ever.
Oof.
I did it. I got the trophy, and I think I got gold time trial. It's rough. It probably took me about 6 hours to do.
Jeez.
It was rough, but some of them were fun to do. That was probably the most difficult one next to Piston It Away. Piston It Away took me a long time to do. But yeah, and what was it, the other one? I had a lot of fun actually playing Nitro Fueled, the remake of Crash Team Racing. I've had so many fun matches online. I have like hours of footage of just great races, bootleg stuff happening. Like, no joke, I have one of the best races I ever did, where it was me and this one guy on, was it Pinstripe Speedway? I forget what that one in the sky is called. I'm forgetting it.
Hot Air Skyway?
Hot Air Skyway, yeah, which is become one of my favorite levels now. And there's one race that I did where it was so intense and so close that I got in first place with the difference of a fraction of a second.
Oh my god.
It was one of those races that when I won, I literally got up and was like, who won? Who won? Who won? And just to see that I'd won by a fraction of a second, because no joke, I think I jumped over the guy to get first place.
Oh my god.
It was I'm tempted to do a compilation, which might be an hour long, of just good races from CTR from 2019. Sorry, excuse me, 2020. So if you guys want to see that, let me know, because I got all the footage. And even in my time trial runs. But yeah, that's pretty much my experiences with Crash. I know this is more your bread and butter, but let's talk about Tomb Raider now.
Alright. I would say my first, well, I've got so many memories of Tomb Raider, but I had to just narrow it down because I could go on for hours about this game. But Tomb Raider, I would say my favourite memories was when, I would say, again, I'll start off my journey with Tomb Raider. I think I remember I watched my auntie play it when I played Tomb Raider when I was really, really young. I think I was like 2 or something like that when I watched it, and I was just taken back when I was 2. Even though I barely know anything at 2 years old, I was still taken back by the beauty of the game at that time. And I remember going into nursery and talking about it and stuff, and I got in trouble for talking about it for some odd reason. I think this is what I was going on about the weapons and stuff. It's like, yeah, your child shouldn't really be talking about this kind of game in nursery. But anyway, I digress. I say my favourite memory from Tomb Raider is when I first got my PS1, and I think the first one I got on the PS1 was Tomb Raider 2, and it was, I think definitely would be when I passed the first level, which is called the Great Wall of China. Oh, the Great Wall, sorry. And the reason why I have to say this is because the first section of the level, I think I spent hours trying to figure out how do I get to the top, because you start off in a cavern, and then you have to make your way to the top to get out. And back then you didn't have YouTube or anything like that to look it up, so you literally had to do it all on observation. So I was stuck in the first area for probably days and days figuring out where do I go next. I had no idea. And then when I realized that you had to make your way to the top, I had to try, but it's really tricky because there's lots of slopey areas, so you easily fall back down to the bottom. But once I got there, I was so happy when I passed the first level. It was just one of the best accomplishments that I would say to this day. Yeah, 100%.
That's awesome.
That's my first memory of it. I don't know if you want to take your turn now.
The unfortunate thing with me in the Tomb Raider series is I've only ever really played one game from the Tomb Raider series, and that is, I know this is probably going to upset a lot of people, and that is the 2013 remake of Tomb Raider.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine.
I did enjoy that game. I thought that game was really well done. It knew what it wanted to do. It looked at its inspiration, mainly being Uncharted, and I think it did enough to differentiate itself. It does have some weird narrative issues. For example, in the game very early on, it's very much like the origin of Lara Croft, and there is a scene where she does kill someone for the first time, and it's a really kind of upsetting and kind of big moment that she's taken a life. And you have that scene, and then you spend the rest of the game killing people. And she never really seems to ever be remorseful for that. So there is it is a bit weird. But that game was actually really fun. I remember the hype when that game came out. It was one of those games where obviously people were going, this game ripped off Uncharted. Which was very problematic. Because anyone who knows anything knows which game came first. And that was, of course, Uncharted. No, I'm joking. But But yeah, it was a fun game. I really liked the more survival element of it. And I think if you're more of a hardcore fan of Tomb Raider, I'd say give this one a go. I haven't played the other ones, but yeah, give this one a go. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. And it does stay true to what's great about Tomb Raider. Because I know a lot of people see it and they go, oh, Lara Croft with a bow, she's going to be shooting animals and people. Trust me, it does Tomb Raider towards the end where you're like, yeah, this is some Tomb Raider. But yeah, and one of my favorite mechanics in that game as well is, because I know a lot of people were like, it's not Tomb Raider, it's a third person running around. You know, one thing I love about what they did is they made the actual tomb raiding optional side missions you can do.
Oh, interesting.
Which is what I really liked. Like, you would just like find an open cave and you just have like this massive room to explore and you've got to figure out a puzzle to get the treasure. Which I thought was a really clever way to stay true to the series. But yeah, do you have any other memories you want to talk about with Tomb Raider?
Yeah, I've got one more memory.
Sure thing.
I would say the other memory would be when I played Tomb Raider 3 and I got to the last section of the game where it's basically set in Antarctica, and it's the second level of the Antarctic zone. But basically, you're in a super dark area, and you've got like mutants running around basically. But there's this specific part in the level where you have to get the slope and you go down in this like big area, and it's got like a really loud, distinct noise. It can get really, really unsettling and really creepy. And the flares you get in that game, for some reason, they're very dimmer. They're dimmer in comparison to the flares in Tomb Raider 2 for some weird reason. And like, you have to basically walk down this hallway, and there's like a doorway where you just basically walk down, and then you just see this big ass monster just jump out of you out of nowhere. It can really, really just make you jump. And like, I've got to say that level just stayed stuck with me. I couldn't do that level for years because of how much it freaked me out. I did it once, and that's what I got so scared. I thought, I'm not going to touch this game again. I thought, no, I'm going to complete this game. I'm going to finish it. I did it again. It still made me jump even years later. I knew what to expect. It still makes me jump every time I see that part. It's like, oh my god. But that, for some reason, that section of the game, it really reminds me of John Carpenter's The Thing, because of like where it's set and the atmosphere. Yeah, in the Antarctic. I just feel like it just really reminds me of it. I don't know what it is, but it's just, but I feel like, Tomb Raider 3, I've had a lot of memories on that game. But yeah, I don't want to be here for hours talking about it, but yeah.
We might have to do a special episode one day, maybe for its 30th anniversary.
Yeah, just Al talks about Tomb Raider for hours.
Yeah, I mean, that can happen. But yeah, I think we've pretty much come to the end of this episode. Very nostalgic episode, although we do have the video of the episode, which is Owl.
Oh, so the video of the episode is IGN's top 10 PS1 game list. I've got to say, when I first watched this video, I wasn't paying attention to it too much, but then after I rewatched it again, I was like, hold on a minute. When you mentioned, like when I sent it to you, it's like, Crash 2 being number 10. And I was thinking, wait, Crash 2 was number 10? And I had to rewatch it again, I was like, oh yeah, it is. I'm thinking, I disagree with that being, why is it so low on the list? I was thinking, I was like, no, it deserves to be way higher on the list. I would say like maybe, I'm not saying it to be number 1, but I'm saying maybe like 4 or 5 at least, or something like that.
In my opinion, it should be swapped out for where Final Fantasy 7 is. Final Fantasy.
Yeah, Final Fantasy had to be number 2, didn't it? I just felt like, come on, really?
That is the number 1 blinded by nostalgia game of all time, I think.
Yeah, like fanboys go crazy. Oh yeah. Oh, what's your favorite Final Fantasy game? Oh, Final Fantasy 7 because of Sephiroth and Cloud. Yeah, I'm just like, don't talk to me. I'm just like, no.
No, it's. I mean, you can like that game. It's fine, but I do find it so funny that so many people will talk about how good that game is, and you'll be like, "Oh, so you're gonna play the game on your YouTube channel, or whatever?" Like, no. It's funny. No, trust me. For all the fans out there, they don't want to play that game for some reason. There's something that's not good in that game that they don't want to play it for some reason. Trust me. Speak to any Final Fantasy VII fan. They haven't played it recently. They have not played it recently for some reason. Just goes to show if it really was that good of a game, you'd be playing it every now and then. But hey.
But I've got to say, though, I do appreciate that they mentioned at number 9 another game called Vagrant Story.
Yes.
Which, that game is very, very, very obscure. Not a lot of people know about it. It's another game done by Squaresoft.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's one of the. I bought it not too long ago on the PS3 actually, and that game, the graphics for its time were, oh my god, it was so incredible.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable that's even on the PS. It was on the PS1. Like, oh
Yeah.
my god, and it's like the way it's set. It's like a comic book as well when the characters are doing their dialogue. It's just really, really well done. I can appreciate that they put that game on there.
Yeah.
And then when I saw Tekken 3 being number 8, I was a little bit like taken back. I was thinking so low, like no, it needs to be higher.
It does.
I mean, how is Tony Hawk's getting higher than Tekken 3? That baffles me.
It's nostalgia and it's the music. That's why. The music in Tekken 3 isn't as iconic and well known as the licensed music in Tony Hawk. That's why I think.
Why. Okay, that makes sense.
Keep in mind, you don't hear music from the Tekken soundtrack being played on the radio now, do you?
No, of course not. No,
it should be.
It should, yeah, it deserves to be, but of course not.
I want to hear Yosamitsu's theme on the radio when I'm driving down the
street. Yeah, that'd be sick. Oh, god, that'd be funny. And I'm glad that Resident Evil 2 was also mentioned on there as well.
Of course.
You know, as it was the most remembered. It's always the most remembered one out of the installments, anyway.
No Silent Hill though.
Sorry, go on.
I was saying no Silent Hill though.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that actually. Yeah, I was a bit surprised. Yeah, no Silent Hill on there, and that's usually when you hear like the first second of the opening play, you know shit's gonna get real.
Yeah.
Literally, it's the most unsettling. It's not. It's really unsettling when you hear it, but it's just like, yeah.
You talking about the opening theme for Silent Hill 1?
Yeah.
You find that unsettling? That like Italian-esque based song?
Like, in a way, kind of. It's a little bit unsettling when you first hear it, and then after it gets a bit calm after that. But yeah, I don't know. I find it unsettling anyway.
Okay, that's interesting. But yeah, that was a very nostalgic-based episode. But yeah, I guess, is there anything else you want to add before we, I guess, put November in the ground?
Nah, that's okay. I'll probably go on a lot on tangents. I don't want to do that. So, no, we can put November to the rest.
Fair enough. So, as I mentioned already, this is one of the last podcasts of the year. The next podcast is going to be the last normal one, and then we have end of the year podcasts. So, brace yourself, guys, because it is going to be an interesting one. I can say that now. I don't know who's going to be on it. You'll just have to wait and see. But I might have some special plans and surprises, but I'll keep that on the hush-hush. Al, thank you for being on this episode.
No problem.
Really appreciate it. And I guess I will end this podcast like I always do by saying I was the Angry Raccoon.
I'm the Introduced Al.
And we will see you on the next podcast.